This reading was so hard to put into words, so I'm so sorry. It's going to be a little convoluted. So your energy manifests onto the rainbow road, and I see 2 tap shoes. And these 2 tap shoes are like black and white tap shoes, and they start dancing. And how they dance is it's not like in your face, loud, kind of obnoxious tapping. It's very cool, like jazzy, blues, like tap dance style, where like the foot like does a really small little riff and then kind of like kicks out and slides and then like kicks back, and like it's just this very cool feeling tap dance, like very controlled, very like suave, very cool to watch. And so I don't know if you're connected to that person who had the other shoe reading. I don't know why it would just show the shoes here, but then we move up to a full formed version of your body, and I see now this guy that would have to be like a Frank Sinatra style kind of guy, like dressed to the nines, like all full suit, white gloves, a cane, the like shiny top hat, and you start dancing and you're tap dancing, and again you're like staring at me face on, and so I'm watching you do this tap dance, and it's this very seductive, but it's not meant to be like in a sexual way. It's just this, it's almost like it's this engagement that you have, and I get that they're pointing me towards your personality. I feel like if you were in a room full of people, like everybody would notice you. Like I just feel that there is this cool demeanor, like amazing command over your situation. You are so controlled, calculated in a very oh gosh, it's like calculated but not. It's like it almost felt like everything you were doing had a specific intention, but it didn't feel contrived at all. It was just so interesting to watch. It was like you were performing, but to a room with no audience. I don't know. It was just so interesting, and I have to get that they're pointing me towards your personality in some way, that you have this ability to just take command over a room, and it was so effortless. You know, like Frank Sinatra, I would have to say, would be somebody who you would consider like just a cool cat, and so effortless. Like, you know, his perception, just what people think about him. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting over this. And so from here, I see you turn, and now you walk away. So I'm looking at your back, and as you walk away, you use your cane to like create a beat, and you're walking really slow. Again, everything has so much intention placed behind it. You're walking slow, and your cane's hitting the stone and making a sound, and then you kind of like slide your feet, your tap shoes, to make the beat, and you kind of like do these like slinky kind of movements down the walkway. Just such a character, like. But effortless. It was just so cool to watch. And so I have to think that you're somebody who's probably, you know, I don't know if we can put that into words, you know, and say that's a personality type, but I would just have to say that you probably command attention wherever you go, but it's this, like, you don't have to work for it. Like, you know, the really good, like I'd say like a Brad Pitt, like the really good looking guy in the room he doesn't even know it, you know, that he has that effect on everybody around him, that he can just kind of like look at you and connect eyes and almost like can control you. You know, it felt like there was some kind of quality or air about how you do things and what you do, and how you can just like with a turn of a head or a drop of a shoulder, how you could just like totally change the energy of a situation. And so from here, ask what the title of your reading is called, and they said he needs to know. So you need to know. So then from here, your energy stays with the same look and feel, but now turns into a cartoon character, and it's the villain from, I think it's The Princess and the Frog. She turns into a frog, and they're in New Orleans, and like the villain is this like voodoo priest, witch doctor guy. And again, it's like, okay, so now we take the energy of that that really cool tap dancer, that Frank Sinatra guy, like full suit, and now we turn it into like the villain, and it's those same qualities, like could be very manipulative, very sly, very kind of coy, but like almost in your head, kind of a person. And now it's this kind of energy where he's kind of taking the shape of the villain. And it's really interesting because this villain in this Disney movie, he has all these scenes, and the coolest scene, you know, that he does is when he's in his, I don't know, in the altar, in the room that he's in, and he's conjuring up all the dark spirits to do his bidding. And it's like he's like singing, and he has this cool, like confident, almost ego air about him, but he does it in such a cool way. It makes you want to like go be friends with the witch doctor, because he's just like, it's like jazzy and bluesy and New Orleans, and just like so cool feeling. And so it's almost the quality back to what's his name, Brad Pitt, in that movie that he does, where I think he's playing basically the devil or the Grim Reaper, and with Anthony Hopkins, and he has that air where, like, you know, when he's in the hospital and the woman sees him, she knows he's death. She starts praying, but he has this really cool, like, almost like seductive air and just this elegance about him, but you know he's like the devil, or he's playing the devil or the bad guy. And so it's just this really interesting kind of energy that's coming through. And so from here I see the energy then we're going to go through the portal, which is the entrance to the next part of the reading. And as you start to move through the portal, your head becomes so big that we have to actually deflate your head to move through. And so what I'm getting is that that there's might be something with ego attached, and I don't know if it's in the solar plexus chakra or the third eye chakra, but what I see next I think helps me understand. So as you move through the portal, we finally deflate your head and get you through the portal. You now are in between like two paths, and it's almost in a V shape, and one path's off to your left and one path's off to your right. And what you do when you're still this like voodoo priest witch doctor guy, and you sit down, you pull out this like really old school piece of lawn furniture that's like really rickety and like kind of metal, and you pull it out and you prop it right up so you can see down both paths, and you sit down, and you just sit down and open yourself. And I almost feel like you're going to conjure all your dark spirits again to go down the paths and almost like search the paths and tell you what path is the right path. But you basically sit down and you open your energy field to receive the information from the path. And so I get flashed to the Lord of the Rings with Gandalf. I think they're in the tunnels of something, and Gandalf and the whole crew sit down, and they're trying to decide what tunnel to go down, and they're both these black tunnels. And after a few hours of sitting there, Gandalf finally goes, "Oh, it's this tunnel, I remember, it's this one here on the left." And everybody's like, "How'd you know?" And he said, "The air smells cleaner." And so it's something as simple as being patient. So I get that there's this ability to be patient and allow the energy of a situation to come to you. And so what this is showing me is the dynamic between what I saw before with the big inflated ego mind. I would think that maybe there's something within like the third eye chakra or the ego, the left brain, you know, that's connected to all this, like this character that's very Frank Sinatra and very coy and cunning and like kind of seductive in a way, and can control people. You know, that somebody like that might have a big inflated ego, but what I'm getting is that there isn't, like, there's this ability to not have the ego mind come into play, an ability to allow yourself a state of presence and connectedness to the situations around you to receive the information or the energy that's necessary to move yourself forward. So it's almost like I get that it's like those characters I saw in the very beginning were almost like a fraud in a way, and that the ego might be inflated because you feel it's necessary to put on like this archetypal vision of, you know, the confident one, or, you know, the suave guy, or the really cool guy. Like, it's almost like you put on this mask of a person or a personality you feel like you need to portray, but that there is so much innate wisdom in you, and you have this ability. So anytime I see somebody have the ability to sit and be present, like you were in those two paths and deciding what path to go down, you took your time and were present with the energy in the situation to allow yourself to make the right and the clear choice, instead of acting on impulse, or, you know, sending off your minions to go find out what path is better for you. And so, you know, that there's duality then between that first vision of this like cool Frank Sinatra guy, witch doctor guy, to the guy that can sit and allow the energy to come to him. So I get that maybe that first vision is a play or a mask or a persona, whatever you want to call it, this archetype that you've created around yourself, so that that true self, or that person that has the ability to hold the wisdom and to sit and be quiet and receive the information, and maybe has a reason. I'm not sure. It's almost like you put on the face of this really cool cat to go along with how successful you can be in the present moment. It's really an interesting dynamic, because it's usually reverse. And so we do things because we are vulnerable, but this is almost like the reverse, where you have so much innate wisdom and internal guidance and ability to kind of read situations that you felt like you had to create this almost ego, overly confident mask to maybe validate or justify how successful you could be. I'm not sure. Like, maybe things came so easy for you that you felt you had to play or be that person or that energy that I saw in the very beginning. I don't know. It's a really interesting dynamic. So from here, I see you now go down the left path. And as you go down that left path, you know this is the right path. But it's interesting because you're that witch doctor, and you conjure this like green orb to surround you. And as you're walking down the path, it's like a dark, kind of could be considered a spooky path. As you're walking down this path, you have this green orb around you, and your hand's out, like your hand is what's conjuring this orb to be out, protecting you in a way, or blocking you from something in a way. And it's like your nose is held high, and your lips are pursed up against your nose, almost like it's this smug, like I'm too good kind of look. And it's like, you know that this is the right path, but you're not willing to engage in the journey. It's almost like you had all the ability to stay present and get yourself to this next phase in the journey. But then when it's time to move through the journey, it's almost like I'm too good to engage in these details. And so you're walking through in this protected orb. And as you get out to the other end, now we have 3 paths. And so you've come out of, one path, and now there's 3 more paths in front of you. And this time I see you turn into like the Gandalf kind of character again, and you now put this orb around your body, and you levitate yourself up above the paths, and you turn your back to the path, so you're facing up towards the sky, and your back is down towards the 3 paths. And this time you don't even like engage in the paths, you just back to the path, you soar like above it. And so I'm getting that there's this energy of an unwillingness to engage maybe in the mundane, but that when it's the big decisions or the big transitions from, so I think we can all call upon our own history and say, here were the big decisions that my life changed. I chose to go to Italy instead of going to college. And then this is what happened. And then from there, I chose to, open a business instead of marrying this person. And so we all have these milestones, is the word I'm looking for, these milestones in our life. And I feel like almost like in the milestone situation, you're willing to sit and be open and allow all that wisdom that you have to come through and guide you, and you're patient and selective. But like when it's time to go from like milestone to milestone, it's almost like you're unwilling to engage in the details. And that's maybe where I'm getting that you put on this this persona or this mask, and it's almost like there's this air of like, I'm too good to engage in the details of this. And I don't know, because that's kind of counterintuitive to what I was getting in the very beginning. But it's almost like, you know, the details of the path. Maybe it's something that the details of the path don't matter. But I almost get that there's this, like, I'm too good to engage in these nitty gritty details. But, like, you're willing to be there and present for, like, the big things. And so from here, I see you then move to the end of the path. Now you're standing at the very end of the path. And there's all these trees that are creating these, like, this pathway for you, and as you walk through the trees and move through this pathway, it's almost like I feel like if I could have had like a seizure from the light that was coming in, like it was like this intense white strobing light as we were walking through the trees. And so finally you get to the very end, and it's this huge tree, and so you open the door of the huge tree and you move in, and I get that we are now in like Hecate's goddess Hecate in her domain, and so Hecate, I think, was also considered the three-faced god. She was the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And so now I'm getting these like milestones in life, right? So it's the maiden, the mother, and the crone. These are big milestones, and I'm getting that there's this easy connection of yourself to the wisdom that's held within like the crone, and I see you having the wisdom of the crone, but putting on like these faces of the different, like the maiden and the mother, like something about these like milestones and these this engagement with, you know, being one person but almost putting on masks or archetypes of another to somehow cover up. I'm not sure. It's some kind of energy of being one thing but hiding behind the mask of another, maybe. I call down your higher self and ask what's for the greatest good for this person to know at this moment in time, and your higher self comes down and almost looks like one of the minions from Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent, one of like the cartoon, the old school cartoon. Like it's kind of like this hog looking thing with a cape over its head. I don't know, really interesting. And so it comes down and I ask, you know, what's for the greatest good at this moment in time, and they basically tell me that you hold so much wisdom and you hold so much knowing in yourself that, you know, it's the milestone choices that you live for, and it's almost like it has to be something that big for you to feel like worthy and validated is not the right word, but it's like to feel like your life has meaning because you have so much knowing and so much wisdom in your soul that if things aren't huge, if things aren't always like, you know, milestone decisions and you know, if it's the mundane day-to-day 9-to-5 stuff that gets us from milestone to milestone, if it's that stuff, it's almost like your nose is turned up and you feel like you just are so full of this knowing and wisdom and whatever that you have to give to the world that it's almost like you disengage. And they're telling me that it is the journey, you know, it's that cliche thing, like, you know, it's not the destination, it's the journey in getting to the destination. And so I feel like they're guiding you to become more aware of the journey that you're on and not so much these milestones, and to and it's basically the message is to enjoy the journey. And so something I was told by a teacher is that, you know, we're all spiritual beings living a human existence, and so sometimes that can be hard, but when you're a spiritual being living a human existence, the goal is to live life and savor every moment of life as slowly and as decadently as possible, because the reason why we incarnate is to come back to do it all over again, even slower and so that we can enjoy it even like that much more. And so if you think about that as a human, like it's like, oh my God, having to live life again, right? But like they say, as spiritual beings, that's our goal, is to be able to come back and live life even slower and savor every detail of it that much more, so that you feel fulfilled in every second of every day. And so I get that that's what they're asking of you, is to bring that wisdom and that knowing into every moment of the day, making every moment that milestone moment of being that connected and that present to feel into the energy of the situation. So with a very convoluted story and ending, I hope it made some sense. With light and love.